a sinner, left my lover crying on the dance floor. I'm a sinner, I'm a sinner.
Hello everybody and welcome back to Slow Damage. Let's continue. A short while later, I heard the sound of speedy footsteps approaching. Oh, wrong button. I would have just sat there on it too. Like, why didn't this work? They were coming from the other end of the alley. I straightened up and looked in the direction of the sound. I thought maybe Taku had come after me, but it doesn't sound like him. Eventually, a lone figure appeared at the other end of the alley, his labored breaths echoing off the narrow walls. When he stopped me, he froze. It was too dark to make out any identifying figures.
父さん
I heard a familiar voice and squinted at him.
五十嵐。
そうっす
The figure scrambled over to me.
父さん会えてよかった
Igarashi beamed brightly, though his countenance was looking haggard.
俺相談したいことがあって。それで父さんに直接会おうと思ってたんす。
He pulled a plastic bag from his coat pocket. Inside, I could see a ton of pills, probably about 100, maybe more.
これ
He paused and stared at the ground.
村瀬先生のところから持ってきたんす。
クリニックからか。
はい。この薬、遠野さんが先生に作らせてるやつなんす。
I shifted my gaze from the pills to Igarashi.
遠野がタクに薬を作らせてること知ってるのか。
Nodding, he stowed the bag back in his pocket.
榊さんから聞いてます。っていうか、榊さんの隠れ家が遠野さんにバレたみたいで、いよいよやばくて。
持ってきたってどういうことだ。
I cut in, bringing him back on topic. His face crumbled like he was about to cry.
実は俺1週間くらい前なんすけど、榊さんから
忍び込む。
はい、もし薬があったら取ってこいってそう言われてたんす。だから俺ずっと先生のことを張ってて、外出した時を狙って忍び込めないか様子を伺ってたんす。それで昨日とうとう。
He squeezed his eyes shut. He must have picked the locks to get in, same as me, and Itakasato Grunt would know how. That aside, the timing lined up with when I planted bugs on Taku and discovered the basement for myself. Furthermore, Taku reported to Tono that there were signs of a break-in. At the time, he said nothing had been taken, but apparently that was a lie. Good thing, too, since if he admitted someone had stolen the drugs, there was no telling what Tono would do.
榊さんが言ってたんすけど、近々遠野さんが何か企んでるみたいなんす。内容はわからないけど、やばいって。父さん、俺怖いんす。
He bit his lip in anguish.
榊さんに言われたから仕方なくやりましたけど、俺のせいでもし先生に何かあったらって。誰かに話したからって許されるわけじゃないんすけど、父さんに話したいってそう思って。
Just then, I sensed someone's presence. I raised a hand to stop him from saying another word. Right now, I was being surveyed by Tono's men. It wasn't safe for me to remain in one location for too long.
移動するぞ。
どこへ行くんすか。
俺も遠野に監視されてる。デスマッチエリアの方が見つかりにくい。
なるほど。確かにそうっすね。行きましょう。
I glanced around, then headed deeper into the alley. With Igarashi in tow, I approached the deathmatch area. On our way, we noticed black Yakuza cars and groups of men clearly searching for someone. We gave them a wide berth until they finally made it inside the deathmatch area.
なんとかなりましたね。
Igarashi was out of breath from speed walking to match my pace.
あ
I was still on guard, however.
いたぞ
A group of men all dash at us out of nowhere. Then a familiar black car pulled up, brakes screeching right next to us.
まったく懲りないな、お前も。
Tono hopped out from the front passenger seat and looked at me in contempt. Then his gaze shifted to Igarashi.
お前も一緒か。いいからし。
Igarashi flinched, eyes as wide as saucers. I scrutinized Tono's expression. He seemed surprised to see me and Igarashi together, but I didn't detect any panic. Maybe he wasn't aware that the pills had been stolen. I didn't notice any dramatic change in his smoke either.
二人ともこっちへ。
Just then another car came speeding down the street and parked and braked hard right next to us. The driver opened up and Sakaki stepped out.
榊さん。
Igarashi murmured, terrified. Sakaki faced off with Tono, a hard look on his face. Then, while a van pulled up and a bunch of goons, probably Sakaki's men, filed out. Tono watched all this unfold with eyebrows raised in amusement.
おいおい。まさか次期組長さんまで乗り込んでくるとはな。
Sakaki laughed and then a provocative sneer rose up on his face.
そっちこそ相当永遠に入れ上げてるようだな。一日でわざわざ2回も会いに来るなんてな。
They glared at each other in silence for a moment.
やれやれ。穏やかじゃないな。落ち着けよ。さっき立ってるバカたちにもそう言ってくれないか。
問題は早期解決が第一だ。だろ？裏切り者が出るならなおさらな。
はあ、それは初耳だ。大いに問題だな。だがどうやら俺たちが疑われているようじゃないか。なあ。
ああ、俺も残念だよ。共に高里組を支えていく仲間だと思ってたんだがな。欲深い野郎がいたようだ。
We're gonna see a Yakuza off.
そんなことも見抜けない組長じゃ誰もついていかないんじゃないか。新小海はお前には支えられない。
また戦争でも追っ始めようってのか。
それも楽しそうだな。
Tono reached into his jacket. Likewise, Sakaki put a hand to his own pocket. Their cronies surrounded them in a big, tense circle. With my eyes fixed on the scene in front of us, I leaned close to Igarashi.
俺が動いたらすぐに榊のところへ行け。
トワさんは
But I didn't answer. Instead, I turned and bolted in the opposite direction. Instantly, the tension exploded, shouts and gunfire in all directions.
おい待て。
とわ！
While the subordinates all fought amongst each other, Sakaki and Tono chased after me. I barreled down the narrow alley. I could hear sharp gunshots in the distance. Were they from Sakaki and Tono or their goons?
止まれ！とわ！
Reflectively, I whipped my head around to the unexpected voice. Then a gun fired nearby. A hard impact struck me from behind and I crumpled face down on the ground. Sparks popped in my vision as my jaw hit the hard asphalt. Someone had pushed me aside. It was the owner of the unexpected voice, Taku.
タク
What was he doing here? Had he chased me all the way from the clinic? I was pretty sure he hadn't followed me. Out of the corner of my eye, I could see him grimacing in pain. If the gunshot didn't hit me, then... I sat up and looked at him. Oh dear, this is not going to end well. There was dark stains on the left side of its chest. I could see scarlet fluid faintly trickling out, blood.
お前
たく手間かけさせやがって。
I could hear the click of Tono's shoes on the pavement, no sign of Sakaki. The gun in his right hand was still smoking, scowling as he came to a stop in front of us.
とはお前がおとなしくしないから村瀬も榊もいらん怪我をする羽目になったんだ。榊は仕留め損なったがまた別の機会にやればいい。今はお前たちの方が先だ。
とは逃げろ。お前だけでも。
Taku grunted in pain. With a chuckle, Tono stomped on his chest wound.
残念ながらお前ととはセットでお持ち帰りだ。
Grinning, he raised his gun to my head.
うちの連中がもうすぐ来る。それまで妙な真似はするなよ。
I sat on my knees next to Taku and silently stared back at him. As Tono and I quietly glared at each other, an explosion of footsteps rang out. Probably his goons.
とは
I looked over at Taku. He was sweating bullets as he gazed at me with agony in his eyes.
とはすまん。
And with that, he closed his eyes. For a moment, all the hair on my body stood on end. My mind went blank, and I failed to process what I was seeing. He died? With that thought, I reached out and pressed my fingers to his throat. I could feel his pulse throbbing away. He was alive.
死んだか？まだ生きてるだろう。
I fixed Tono with an icy stare as he smiled thinly.
お前、本当に反応が薄いな。人の血が通ってないんじゃないのか。
He sneered down his nose at me. Then finally I heard the sound of a car engine approaching. Taku and I were shoved into the back of the car. They drove us to District B and parked at a hotel owned by Tono himself. When we got out of the car, his subordinates flanked us tightly on both sides, escorting us in. With Tono leading the way, we all boarded the elevator. Then one of the lackeys slid a card into the small panel below the floor buttons. The elevator started to rise on its own, going past the top floor, 15, and stopping at the 18th floor. The elevator's doors opened and we all filed out. A hallway stretched out in front of us, with the doors on either side of the and floor lighting space intermittently along the way. I looked up at the ceiling and spotted round devices affixed to the corners of the ceiling, probably surveillance cameras. Tono led us down the hallway until he stopped short of one of the doors. One of his henchmen produced a key card and opened the door. Tono walked in, then looked over his shoulder at us.
村瀬は何度か来ているから知っているだろうが、ここは俺が運営している会員制の複合型カジノ施設だ。16階から18階まではプライベートエリアになっていて、一般人は入れない。薬が完成するまでの間、お前たちはここに滞在してもらう。この部屋と隣の部屋を使え。村瀬が仕事をするための部屋は別に用意してあるから、後で案内させる。プライベートエリアを歩き回るのは構わんが、必ず見張りをつける。建物の外には出るな。おい、やれ。
Tono, once Tono gave the go-ahead, his subordinate started feeling me up. He emptied his pockets, including my phone and the earpiece. Then they stripped off Taku's jacket and confiscated all of his stuff too. He was barely conscious, so he didn't protest.
とわ、お前はこっちだ。
Tono beckoned for me with one finger, then opened the door. I walked over to him, but as I left the room, I glanced back at Taku. He still showed no signs of stirring.
村瀬の怪我は手当てする。心配するな。
Right now, I had no choice but to obey. I turned and left the room. Tono walked down the hall and stopped at a different floor and opened the door with a keycard. The interior reeked of perfume. 5 or 6 women lounged on the bed and sofa, dressed in fancy clothes. When they spotted Tono, they all donned sycophantic smiles and straightened up.
トーノさん、おかえりなさい。おかえりなさい。
They slurred sweetly, greeting him.
ここにいるのは乗客やゲストをもてなすために控えている特別な女たちだ。そこらのキャバクラとはレベルが違うルックスの女しかいない。
Upon further inspection, I noticed they were all tall and slender. But I wasn't interested in women, or more accurately, I didn't feel comfortable around them. In the past, girls would hit on me, and I was receptive to it, but dating them was too much work, and I didn't enjoy myself. I wasn't sure when the discomfort first started. Probably childhood, if I had to guess. These days, I just tried to avoid them where possible. So, if he wanted to impress me, it wasn't working. Did he really bring me here just to show me his collection of women? Mildly puzzled, I looked around the room just then, and I realized that one of the escorts wasn't looking at us. She was sitting on the edge of the bed with her back turned. She seemed to despise being with these women, or rather being here at all, with every fiber of her being. Then she looked over her shoulder and made eye contact with me. With her shoulder-length hair, she looked like an ordinary, quiet woman. She quickly averted her eyes, but it was too late. Something about her had given me pause. I didn't notice any changes in her smoke.
気になるか？
Tono noticed me looking at her and smirked.
あの女は上玉なんだがな。態度が堅くななんだ。まあ、ああいう手合いは珍しくもない。仕事さえこなせば何の問題もないということで好きにさせている。
それより俺をここに連れてきた理由は？
His smirk deepened.
お前は村瀬と榊、両方の人質だ。特に村瀬には仕事を完遂してもらわなきゃならないからな。
Miko needs the task done too, apparently.
だが、せっかくここまで来てもらったんだ。遊びを提供しようと思ったんだよ。
Fun? I looked back at him dubiously and he chuckled.
村瀬が見たら、心臓が止まっちまうかもしれないな。
Mean the thing you shot? Or tried to. Huh? But he ignored my confusion and clapped his hands.
さあ、それじゃあ、オーダーといこうか。最高の料理に仕上げてくれ。
On cue, all the women gathered around me. Bewildered, I turned and glared at Tono reproachfully.
お前に与えられた仕事だとでも思っておけばいい。
The women gently grabbed me by both arms. Is this what I think it is? I hope to hell I was wrong. In the end, I let them drag me off to the other side of the room. We're getting a makeover. I'd assumed they would take me to the bed, but instead we went into the bathroom. The room was blindingly bright, and the light glinted off the white marble floor and directly into my eyes. Against the far wall, I could see a glass shower stall and a big round jacuzzi bathtub. Near the door was a countertop with 2 sinks. Examining the women here in the light, I noticed that in spite of their supposed good looks, they were all gaunt and with patchy skin. I had suspected maybe they were drug addicts based on their slurred speech earlier, but now I was sure of it.
それじゃあ、服を脱いでくれる？
A woman with a wavy, bleached hair stood me in front of the sink. I still didn't understand what was going on, but nevertheless, I slowly started to strip. Then another woman walked over. Nothing like taking a break to get some orange juice and realizing you have a cut in your mouth. Yay! She was carrying a dress in her hands. It was visibly well-tailored and made of glossy, flowing fabric. Once I reduced to my underwear, the wavy-haired woman took the dress and held it to me.
はい、これ着て。
着る？
I repeated blankly. The item in question was clearly women's clothing.
大柄な子でも入るサイズだから大丈夫。あなた、細いし。
いや、
遠野さんのオーダーよ。あなたを女性に見えるように仕上げてくれって言われてるの。
I stared back, agog. Was this my new job? Not cool, man.
それを着たらメイクとヘアセットもするから。
It wasn't especially encouraging, so I stood there blankly. Then she shoved the dress at me urgently.
はい、着て。
No! She pulled her hand away and I reflectively snatched the dress before it could fall. Resistance was starting to feel pointless, so I decided to cooperate. That said, I didn't know the first thing about wearing a dress. As I stared down at the delicate fabric and the other women sensed my confusion and came over to help. Somehow they managed to squeeze me into it. Honestly, I had no idea how women could tolerate wearing this crap on a daily basis. It was tight, restricting, and extremely uncomfortable.
オッケー、次はメイクね。
I want a picture of a minute. Without a single moment to catch my breath, they sat me down in front of the sink. The wavy-haired woman pinned my bangs up and started applying various liquids and powders to my face. My skin took on a glossy sheen like the dress, and I had to fight the urge to scrub it off. And because there was a mirror right in front of me, I was forced to watch myself transform. It felt like I was being physically altered into a different life form, and I hated every minute.
傷跡を隠せば結構いい感じじゃない？アイシャドウはこの色が合いそう。
No means no! The girls gleefully gabbed amongst themselves, paying no mind to how I felt.
ねえ、あなた、遠野さんに気に入られてるの？
さっき聞いただろ、人質って。
でも、遠野さんが男に女装させたがるなんて、今まで聞いたことないわよ。大抵は監禁して拷問とか、そういう感じだし。
あんたたちは遠野が怖くないのか？
怖いって言えば怖いけど、逆らわなければ優しいし、たまに欲しいものを買ってくれることもあるし、別に嫌いじゃないわよ。ねえ。
The other women all readily agreed.
もしかしたらあなたパーティーに出るの？
No.
パーティー？
そう、もうすぐ本土の政治家や官僚たちを呼ぶパーティーがあるらしいの。でもよく考えたらそんな大事な場所に女装した男の人を連れて行くなんてことさすがにないわよね。
They giggled. Fuck 'em all. A party with mainland politicians and bureaucrats? Igarashi and Sakaki both claimed Tono was plotting something. Was he trying to have a drug ready in time for this party? Was that why he brought Taku here? The mainland police were also always eagerly watching for the opportunity to take Shingo Kumi away from the Takasato Kumi. If they knew the organization was plotting to distribute a new drug, they'd pounce ASAP. So Tono probably figured he'd keep the cops in check as he announced it as a business strategy and offered to share the profits. I dropped my cup. I dropped my cup again. The goal of the party was probably to lay the groundwork for investor relations. Tono was rushing Taku to finish the job because of this hard deadline. If successful, Tono would gain massive support both internally and externally, giving him an optimal chance to upstage Sakaki.
そのパーティーっていつかわかるか？
ここのカゴって言ってたわよ。私たちも借り出されるの。
そうか。
As I spoke, I looked back at my reflection in the mirror. With skin like molded clay, I could no longer tell the difference between myself and the women around me. Show us a picture! After my makeup was done, they put a wig on me and started styling my hair, all while having the time of their lives. Then I stepped into a pair of stiletto heels, and apparently my makeover was complete. I was taken back to the living room. The perfume-like smell embedded in the makeup was making me sick. Both the dress and heels were hard to move around in, and I fell. Probably wasn't getting back up. As I staggered across the room, I noticed Tono standing there. Apparently, he was waiting for his finished product. I expected him to start making fun of me, but instead, he looked at me with a satisfied grin.
思った以上の出来だな。なかなか似合ってるじゃないか。どうだ？女になった気分は。
Sir, fuck you.
別にどうもしない。
Oh, he looks terrible with the hair, though. Oh, he looks bad. He snorted with my apathetic response, then looked at the woman.
お前たち、後で好きなものを買ってやる。
My tormentors all squealed in delight.
来いとは。村瀬に披露しに行くぞ。
Like a gentleman, he elegantly proffered a hand. I ignored it.
あんた、こういう趣味があるのか？
I was half teasing, half serious. He retracted his hand and shrugged.
いや、俺の興味の対象は女だ。まあ、お前に関しては例外と言っていいかもしれんな。
No means no.
俺なら抱けるって。
All right, Buffalo Bill.
今のお前ならな。
His response to my challenge with a twisted sneer.
そういう仕事だと思って、お前も割り切って楽しめよ。行くぞ。
You get an address now, then. He headed for the door. As for me, my legs were shaking and I could barely walk. These heels weren't easy to adapt to. As I floundered, Tono clucked his tongue and came back over. Then he slid an arm around my waist and pulled me close.
骨っぽいな。
He muttered flatly under his breath and started walking. I leaned against him, struggling to stay upright in these heels. Kick the fucking things off, Jesus. After we left the women's room, we returned to the previous room. As Tono opened the door, Taku looked up from the bed. He was now fully conscious, and Tono's men had patched him up.
村瀬、お前にいいものを見せてやる。
Tono spoke in an uncharacteristically cheery voice as he walked in, yanking me close behind him. I stumbled in front of Taku. He stared back at me in shock, his brow furrowed in confusion.
マヤさん。
Quietly, he murmured a name I didn't recognize. Then Tono grabbed me by the jaw and pulled me close.
驚いて声も出ないか？本当にマヤに瓜二つだよな。
Oh, I bet you Maya's our mom.
俺もちょっとした冗談のつもりでやってみたんだが、血のつながりってのはバカにできないもんだと思ったよ。
Was Taku in love with our mother? Taku's expression shifted from shock to fury, and he glared at Tono.
トノ、お前。
マヤって誰だ？
When I cut in, Tono released my jaw and smirked.
なんだ、覚えてないのか？お前の母親の名前だよ。
Taku sucked in a breath.
母親？
村瀬はな、お前の母親に惚れてたんだ。
やめろ！
つまりお前はこれまでずっと母親の身代わりをさせられてたってことだよ。あいつはお前に母親の面影を重ねてるんだ。
違う！
Tono watched in amusement as Taku spluttered. Maya. I couldn't remember much about my mother. Even when I tried, I could only recall a vague silhouette at best. Was that why Taku always got so overprotective of me? Surrogate goldfish. If so, then I wasn't bothered by it. It didn't really matter to me.
村瀬はこう見えて結構厄介な男なんだよ。なあ、とは。お前はどう思う？
別に。
Tono grabbed me by the jaw again.
俺は男には興味がないんだが、ここまでべっぴんに仕上がるとは正直思ってなくてな。さすがに欲しいと思っても仕方がないよな。
He donned a creepy grin, probably trying to provoke Taku.
むしろ男をこいつで試してみるって手もある。もしいい具合だったら愛人にしてもいい。
He stroked my cheek seductively, tracing his thumb over my lower lip. Punch him!
トノ
Right as he leaned in close, Taku screamed his name.
手を出されたくなければ早く仕事を片付けろよ。
He spoke flatly, turned for the door, dragging me along with him. It was all I could do to just stagger in the same direction. I looked over my shoulder at Taku and found him glaring down at his tightly balled fist. His suede smoke had turned dark red. For some reason, the sight made the hair on the back of my neck stand on end. But Tono yanked me toward him, so I was forced to turn and leave Taku behind. After that, Tono took me back to his room, but all he ever asked me to do was serve his booze to him. He reclined on a leather sofa and drank in silence without looking at me. Then, about an hour later, he summoned one of his goons and ordered him to escort me back to my room. Despite everything he said in front of Taku, he didn't actually seem to have any interest in the guys. As soon as I left Tono's room, I stepped out of the stilettos and walked the rest of the way barefoot. Finally, the biggest thorn in my side was gone. My assigned room was right next to the room where Taku and I were first taken. There was a man in a suit standing out front, probably on guard duty. Was Taku still in the room next door? We paused in front of the door while the subordinate used a key to open it. Inside was a pitch black. By inserting the key card into the card reader on the wall, the lights switched on. Now I could see the layout of the same as the next room. With his job now done, my escort left the room without another word. Alone, I looked up at the four corners of the ceiling, then walked along the walls. At a glance, I couldn't find any spy cameras or listening devices. There was a phone on the bedside table, but it was almost certainly tapped. Better not use it. After I gave a room a once-over, I let out a sigh of relief. Suddenly, I was exhausted. Apparently, I was a lot more tense than I realized. As my gaze wandered, I spotted an unfamiliar figure reflected in the mirror on the wall. Obviously, it was me. I looked ridiculous. I couldn't stand it a single moment longer. In the bathroom, I stripped off the tight dress and wig and washed my face with soap and water, over and over until the makeup came off. I roughly rubbed a towel over my face, then stepped out of the bathroom in my underwear and sat down on the edge of the bed. I was craving nicotine, but couldn't find any cigarettes lying around. The pack I had on me was confiscated back when we first arrived, as was my phone. Clucking my tongue in frustration, I got up and walked to the closet to look for new digs. On the shelf, I could see a few stacks of folded clothes. I threw on some stuff at random, then pulled the key card out of the card reader and left the room.
どこへ行く
The guard outside accosted me immediately.
タバコ持ってない。
部屋へ戻れ
He blocked my path and refused to play along with my banter.
タバコがないとイライラするんだよ。あんたは喫煙者？もしそうならわかるだろ？
I carefully observed him as I spoke. He looked at me but didn't quirk a brow. He struck me as an uptight, no-nonsense type.
なあ。
I smiled and looked up at him.
あんたたち、遠野の言うことにきっちり従って、いつも気張ってるんだろ？疲れないの？
お前には関係ないだろう。
でもほら、たまには息抜きしたいと思うことだってあるよな。
The guard pursed his lips. In the back of my mind, I wish I had waited a little longer to defeminize myself.
俺、 遠野に気に入られてるんだけど、理由聞いてる？
I paused suggestively, then leaned in close. Then I gazed deeply into the man's eyes.
知らない？知りたくない？理由。
I whispered softly. He recoiled, his expression one of mingled surprise and hesitation. No sign of disgust, I smirked internally. If he didn't reject me, then I could twist him around my little finger. I stepped forward to bridge the gulf between us, then wrapped my arms around his neck.
何をしてる？離れろ！
遠野は俺の体にはまってるんだよ。意味、わかるよな。
The words left my lips in a breathy whisper, directly into his ear.
お前！
ずっと部屋にいるの退屈だからさ。あんたが興味あるなら相手してほしいんだけど。
I let my words trail off and planted a squeaky kiss on his neck. Instantly his ears flushed.
男のくせに淫乱なのか？
Yes!
気持ちいいことはみんな好きだろ。あんたも好きだよな。俺はそれが人一倍強いってだけ。
He murmured to himself and fell silent.
でもその前にタバコが欲しい。ないとイライラするんだよ、本当に。探しに行ってもいい？
ダメだ。
じゃあ持ってきてよ。退屈なのはタバコで我慢するから。それであんたが暇になったら遊ぼうよ。
We're just not a man slut, we're a major man slut. With a seductive smile, I stroked his cheek. He swallowed and stared back at me, blushing furiously.
部屋で待ってろ。すぐに戻る。
Fuck yeah, we got cigarettes.
わかった。サンキュー。
I pecked him on the cheek in a farewell. Stiffly, he headed off down the hall. As I watched him go, I let out a sigh. That was practically the oldest trick in the book, but somehow he still fell for it. Were all men this stupid? Once he turned the corner, I set off down the hall in opposite direction. Evidently, my room was the only one with a guard out front because I couldn't see any others. My destination, the woman's room. Of all the women vying for Tono's affection, I recalled one who seemed to have closed herself off. Retracing my steps from memory, I arrived at the door. I knocked lightly, and after a moment, the door opened a crack. It was her, the one with the bobbed cut. This was my first time getting a good look at her face, but I recognized the hair. Her anxious expression paired with her petite build made her look like a teenager, although she was probably in her early 20s.
さっき来たんだけど、覚えてる？
はい。どうかしました？
Her voice was low and hoarse.
携帯落としたみたいで。
少し待っててください。
She leaned back and shut the door. Truth be told, I was lying. I knew I wouldn't find it lying around anywhere. The door opened again and the short-haired woman returned.
今他の子にも聞いてみたんですけど、携帯電話はなかったって。
Go in there and just talk to the girls.
そうか。困ったな。連絡しろって言われてるのに。
遠野さんに？
ああ。
部屋の電話は？
壊れてるみたいで使えなかった。だから携帯がないと困るんだ。
Hesitating, the woman averted her eyes. I could tell she just needed a little push, so I pushed.
できたらでいいんだけど、貸してもらえないか？
携帯ですか？
ああ。
She looked at her feet.
遠野にバレたら怒られる？もちろん無理にとは言わないよ。気にしないでくれ。
I hoped being considerate would win me some pity points, but she kept staring at the floor.
それじゃ。
Right as I was about to end the conversation, she looked up in determination.
貸します。
いいのか？
はい。遠野さん、この時間はもうここへは来ないはずだから。 部屋に入ってください。誰かに見られたら面倒なので。
She peered cautiously down the hall, then opened the door wide. Just as planned. That being said, I was lucky it was this chick in particular who came to the door. If she hadn't, I would have asked to speak to her. The moment I saw her sitting alone, I knew she was different from the rest. She distanced herself from the rest of the fawning sycophants. And she didn't seem like the drug addict either, maybe just a casual user at most. When I entered the room, I saw the other woman lounging on the bed and sofa. They glanced at me but quickly lost interest.
少し待っててください。
The short-haired woman walked further into the room while I stood nearby the door, nonchalantly observing the residents. We actually never look at this. Okay, so these are all the different palettes we get. There was something off about these women. I'd sensed it during the makeover, and I sensed it right now. Wrong button. They were staring blankly into space, like they were all sick and had with a head cold. Sporadically, they would twitch a hand or leg as if to shoo a fly. I recognized it as a telltale twitch of a tweaker. The distinct clawing smell that permeated this room was in fact the smell of meth. Did Tono get them addicted in order to keep them from thinking clearly? That said, these women were all carefully managed like property, so you wouldn't know they were addicts at first glance. But try as you might, you could never truly hide the effects of hard drugs. Once the makeup wasn't enough to conceal it, they would probably get restocked. While I was lost in thought, the woman returned.
これを。
どうも。
As she handed me her phone, she looked at me with pursed lips. Then she'd first answered the door. She looked like a frightened squirrel, but now she struck me as headstrong.
あなたはなぜここへ？トノ。
仕事で呼ばれた。知り合いがここにいるから。
仕事？
夜のだよ。
ああ、だから女装を。
She nodded in understanding.
トノさんにまさかそっちの趣味があるとは思わなかったけど。
本当にな。
I felt no obligation to correct the record, so I just went with it.
トノさんとはそういう関係なの？
寝てるかって？
まあ。
まさか趣味じゃない。
I shrugged playfully and a relieved smile crept onto her face. I moved a few steps away and dialed Ray's number, which I luckily had memorized. After a few rings, he picked up.
もしもし。
俺だ。
とは。ちょっと今どこにいるの？タクは無事？あんたも。
He panic's voice blared through the phone speaker. I lowered my voice so the women wouldn't overhear me.
俺もタクも元気だよ。今仕事でトーノのところに来てる。タクは頼まれてる仕事が忙しいみたいであんまり会えないけど。
仕事って何？
医薬品らしい。トーノに腕を買われたんだってさ。あいつ医者だからそういうことにも詳しいんだろうな。
医薬品？トーノって。そうか。薬ね。やばいもの。
Ray seemed to catch on because he lowered his voice too.
誕生日の準備はどうなった？盛大に祝うって言ってたろ。9日後か。すごいパーティーにしないとな。
誕生日？パーティー？9日後。
タクもそれまでに頑張るって言ってたよ。そこを超えたら仕事を頑張ってたのに意味ないって。
期限なのね。それが。
あ
あ。わかったわ。
それじゃそろそろ。
あ、待って。五十嵐君から連絡があったの。
五十嵐から？
ええ。ドアに連絡しても繋がらないって。
そりゃそうだろうな。
話したいことがあるって言ってたわ。
必ず会ってくれ。五十嵐も楽しみにしてるはずだから。
わかった。
気をつけて。
うん。ドアも。
あ、また連絡する。
After I hung up, I deleted the entry in the call history, then returned the phone to its owner.
助かった。ありがとう。
I wasn't sure if my entire coded message had made sense to Ray, but at least I managed to get in touch with him.
よかった。それで、
But before she could finish, someone started pounding on the door. The easygoing atmosphere instantly turned tense.
おい、開けろ。
A furious voice shouted from the hall. A short-haired woman raced to the door.
一体何が？
てめえ、こんなところで何してやがる。
Out of nowhere, the door flew open and a burly man stormed in. As soon as he saw me, he raised his fist. My vision dimmed, the impact collided with my cheek. He hit harder than I was expecting and I fell to the floor. The sudden violence made the women shriek in terror.
そんな、いきなり殴らなくても。
うるせえ。
He roared at the short-haired woman, then rounded on me.
てめえ、沢田にタバコを取りに行かせて、その間に逃げたんだってな。
I was told I was allowed to explore, you fucker. Sawada? Evidently, that was the name of the guard posted outside my room.
騙された沢田の野郎は大バカだがよ。てめえ、何勝手に出歩いてやる。
Bite me, dick.
しかもこんな部屋に入り込みやがってよ。女狙ってんのか？ああ？
I'm gay. Toa's gay. It wouldn't matter if I was. That means these chicks... Look. All the chicks go for this horn. I can't stop them, man. I've tried. They just want to rub the horn over and over. And then pet the ears. It's a fucking nightmare. You don't even understand. He kicked me in the face with his leather boots, then kicked me in the gut for good measure. Hit me harder, Daddy. The blow left me winded. Pain radiated to my internal organs. Then he went back to kicking my head and face. Reflectively, I curled into a ball, shielding my skull with my arms, but this didn't deter him.
やめてよ、死んじゃう。
うるせえ。こいつは部屋に入れたのは誰だ。大野さんが知ったらどうなるか分かってるんだろうな。
I feel like Tono's gonna be more pissed if you kill his fucking hostage.
その人が忘れ物したって言うから探しただけよ。
忘れ物だ。どんな理由があろうと部屋にホイホイ入れるんじゃねえよ。
Once he had fill of kicking me, he squatted down, and then he grabbed me by the bangs and held me up. Not the hair!
こっちが下手に出てるからってつけ上がりやがって。
I swear to...
自分の立場分かってんのか？
If you
あ？
If you fucked up the little heart in my hair, I swear to God, I'm going to shove this horn where the sun don't shine. I'm gonna shove it where it's gonna hurt more, and you can all imagine where that's gonna be. I'm going to fucking circumcise you with a horn. Don't clip my stupid sayings. With a twisted grin, I swilled the blood in my mouth and spat it in his face.
知るか。
てめえ！
He slammed his skull down to the floor. My skull down to the floor. My vision went white like the room exploded. The women all screeched as he seized me by the arm and hauled me up again.
遠野さんの命令がなきゃぶっ殺してるところだ。ほら、歩け！
I'm gonna tell Tono you picked on me, and that you ruined my fucking makeup. He doesn't have to know I already took it off. With that, he chased me out of the woman's room. Back in my assigned room, I laid on my back on the bed. I was used to pain, but I hated it whenever my body refused to move like it was supposed to. As I lay there, I drifted in and out of consciousness. Hard to say whether I actually slept in or if I just kept passing out because it fucking hurt. I glanced over at the clock on the bedside table to find that it was 7 a.m. had rolled around. This room had no windows to speak of, possibly a conscious design choice to create a prison cell, so my senses were out of it. He couldn't give me a fucking, Game Boy or shit? Jesus, give me a TV. I'll watch Judge Judy. Or Judge Yoko, whatever the Japanese version. Come the fuck on, give me something to do. Give me coloring books or something. Give me a notepad or something. Oh, you were allowed. Look, there's an ashtray, so I guess he can smoke in here. Enduring the pain, I forced my body into a sitting position. My mouth was still bleeding, and I could taste the copper. Frankly, I had expected that Tono's men would catch me, and the whole thing was entirely unplanned anyway, so I wasn't that unfazed. If anything, getting in touch with Ray was a huge accomplishment. There was a chance the chick with the bob cut could blab to Tono, but Ray was smart enough to steer clear of him. Now all that remained was Taku. I had so many conflicted feelings about him. It was his fault I was here after all. So part of me was tempted to ditch him and make a run for it. But even I wasn't that cold-blooded. Ideally, I wanted to help Taku escape while I was at it, assuming he'd even agree to it. Seriously, what was he thinking? It was a mystery. Guess even soulless husks like me still have some emotion floating around in here. Just then, a knock at the door drew my attention.
とわ、俺だ。
I could hear Taku's voice on the other side. Sorry if you guys hear Kiwi. Slowly easing myself onto my feet, I inched my way to the door.
お前、その顔。
What, you don't like the new makeup? It's called Fuck It Hurts! When I opened the door and peered out, he looked back at me in shock. Then he stepped inside and shut the door behind him. With one hand, in the other he carried a first aid kit.
何があった？誰にやられたんだ？
Big burly asshole beat him for me. He looked at me sternly and I raised both hands in surrender.
まあ、いろいろと。
ごまかすな。くそ。お前がこんな目に遭う必要はないってのに。
Bitterly he grimaced.
お前をそうやって焦らせるために、俺が連れてこられたんだろ。
No, I think Tono wants to fuck you. For a moment he looked gutted, but then he closed his eyes as if to compose himself.
ああ、そうだな。トノにお前の手当てをしろと言われてきたんだが、こんなにひどくやられてるとは思わなかったんだ。
You should see the other man. He has like sore knuckles now because of me.
とりあえずベッドに座ってくれ。
Dragging my aching body, I did as he asked. Looking worried, Taku set the first aid kit on the bedside table and sat down next to me.
顔を見せてくれ。
He gingerly cupped my jaw and tilted my head up, squinting his eyes in scrutiny.
口を開けて。
I did as instructed. Using one hand to remove my jaw, he peered into my mouth from different angles.
切れてるな。痛いだろう。次、シャツを脱いで。
Once he pulled his hand away from my jaw, I hiked up my shirt over my head. My upper body was dotted with bruises. Taku looked at it and grimaced.
こりゃひどいな。ちょっと寝てくれ。
I lay down on my back. He gently pressed against the dark purple bruises on my side.
痛いか？
Yes!
いや、
ここは？
ま
あ。わかった。足も怪我してるなら見せてくれ。
I slowly sat up, wriggled out of my pants, and dropped them to the floor.
足はそこまでひどくないか？
There was still some bruising on my thighs, but not as dark as my torso. After he gave my body a once-over, Taku reached out to grab the first aid kit, but stopped. For a moment, he seemed to rub the left side of his... Oh, right, he was shot. This reminded me of the gunshot wound to his left clavicle.
痛むのか？
Obvious goddamn questions.
動かすと少しな。
With a dry smile, he started my treatment. He applied a compress to the dark bruising on my side, then gently wiped at my facial injuries with a cotton square soaked in disinfectant.
口の中は腫れるだろうから、2、3日は飲食が厳しいかもしれんな。
酒は？
染みてもいいなら。
He already knows. He rolled his eyes to me as he applied ointment to my face.
俺が言えた義理じゃないんだが、お前にはこれ以上余計な傷を増やしてほしくない。
The sadness in his voice gave me a strange sense of deja vu. I felt unusually peaceful. Exhaling, I tried to force it out of my system. If I had to guess, it was probably because Taku had taken care of me all these years. He always looked out for me, and he was certainly the only person who gave a shit about me in this hellhole.
なら、薬とやらを完成させなきゃな。
To overwrite the nostalgia I felt inside, I purposely touched on the subject of narcotics.
それは
He hung his head, his brow tightly knitted and his expression pained.
本当は完成させたくない。人を破滅に導く薬なんて。
でも、引き受けたんだろ。
I don't think he had a choice. Silently, he looked up at me. Then he sucked in a long breath and said,
トーノには恩がある。
恩
He stared at his feet like he was debating whether to talk about it.
トーノは病気だった俺の母親の入院費や治療費を肩代わりしてくれたんだ。
Yeah, he was planning this shit for a long time.
俺が高校2年の時に両親が離婚してな。母親は世間知らずの箱入り娘で体が弱かった。だから働こうにも働けなくて、俺がバイトして生活費を稼いでたんだ。だが学生のバイトなんてたかが知れてる。母親はいつも金に困ってて、もともと心が強い方じゃなかったから少しずつ病んでいって、最後は薬に手を出したんだ。
Do you have heart problems? Drugs will help. Not the one she was on. Exhaling, he paused to think for a moment before he continued.
俺は母親が苦しむ姿をずっと見てきて、いつか治してやるって思ったんだ。そうすれば依存から救う方法を見つけることができるんじゃないかってな。それで国立の医学部に入って医者を目指すことにした。私立はとんでもなく金がかかる。とはいえ国立も私立に比べれば安いってだけで難易度は変わらない。
That is true.
そもそも付け焼き場の勉強で本当に入れるかどうかもわからないまま、とにかく寝る間も惜しんでバイトと勉強漬けで毎日不安でたまらなかったよ。そんな時だ、あいつが声をかけてきたのは。
His expression darkened and he let out a hard breath.
トーノとは別に仲がいいわけじゃなかった。だから最初は警戒した。それに当時トーノは悪い連中とつるんでるって噂があったからな。
Oh, so you guys were friends in high school.
結局
Or
あいつは根っからの悪だったわけだが、あの時は実際に話してみるとそんなに悪いやつでもないと思っちまったんだ。
I don't mean friends. I mean they knew each other in high school or college.
それどころか俺の話に賛同してくれてな。医者を目指すのは素晴らしい志だと。ただ医者になるよりも研究者になったらどうかとまで言われてな。その場合は全力で支援するとも。母親の入院費もトーノが出すと言ってくれて、俺はその恩に報いるべく薬学部の薬科学科に進むことにした。研究者になるために。
学生なのにトーノはそんな大金を払えたのか。
Taku slowly shook his head.
あいつの父親は不動産経営をしていて、昔から金持ちで有名だったんだ。それでも同級生から金を借りることに抵抗がなかったわけじゃない。俺は薬学部へ入って研究に没頭した。そうしているうちにやはり医者になりたいと思うようになったんだ。俺の手で母親のように苦しんでる人を助けたいと。 悩んだ末、薬学部の修士課程を収めてから医学部に入り直したいと遠野に相談した。それまでの遠野の支援を思えば到底受け入れてもらえない話だろうとは思っていた。金を返せと言われても仕方がない。それでも一か八かで話した。遠野はあっさりと快諾したよ。医者を目指すならそれで構わないと言ってな。俺はひたすら遠野に感謝するしかなかった。その後、俺は薬学部の修士課程を終えてから医学部に入った。ようやく本当にやりたかったことができる。さあこれからだって時に、母親が病室から失踪したんだ。どこを探しても見つからなくて、結局病院から遠く離れた路地裏で発見された。
He paused there to exhale deeply. I could tell from the look on his face that he didn't want to continue, but nevertheless.
発見された時、母親はもう死んでた。俺がちゃんと見てなかったせいだと、そう思った。俺はもしかしたら勉強に打ち込むふりをして母親から逃げてたんじゃないかと思ったんだ。母親を見殺しにした自分が許せなかった。それから自暴自棄になって、タバコや酒に溺れるようになって、せっかく医学部に入ったのに全てがどうでもよくなって、遠野とも疎遠になってな。生も根も尽き果ててそろそろ死のうかと思ってた時に、偶然遠野と再会したんだ。遠野は高里組として頼みたいことがあると言ってきた。あいつが高里組に入っていたことを知ったのはその時だ。だが意外だとは思わなかった。昔から悪い噂が絶えなかった男だ。関わらない方がいいとは思ったんだが、あいつには恩があったし、信頼していた。
He let out another heavy sigh and closed his eyes. His throat quivered like he was trying to choke down his feelings.
今ならわかるが、遠野は狡猾だ。俺に初めて話しかけてきた時も、俺が医者を目指していることにあらかじめ目をつけて種をまいておいたんだろう。研究者を目指せと言って薬学部に入るよう勧めたのも、将来的に薬物に詳しい人間がいた方が便利だと考えたんだろうな。実際あいつは普通の医者が嫌がるようなことを頼んでくるようになった。もし依頼を断るなら、今まで貸した金を全て負債にすると言ってな。あいつは全部計算してたってことだ。俺に話しかけてきた時から何もかも。
クリニックの地下もそのためか。
He nodded darkly.
ああ、高里組から依頼があった時に使うためだ。
それでこれから先もずっと遠野の操り人形を続ける気なのか。
I mean, we could shoot him. He shot me an anguished look, his brow furrowed deeply.
それは
一生遠野の人形でいるつもりか。
He stared at the floor, his expression panicked. pained.
あの薬を完成させてしまったら、俺は母親の命を奪った薬の存在を肯定することになる。
Sabotage the drug.
そうなってしまったら、俺は何のために医者になったのか。こんなことをするためじゃないんだ。なのに。
だったらやめちまえよ。
それは無理だ。
He jerked out the words.
俺はもう何も失いたくない。大切なものを守りたいんだ。
お前はどうしたい？
Ooh.
俺は
Play bad cop until he admits why he's hesitating. No target.
言えよ。
What are you so scared of losing?
大切なんだ。
Everything at the clinic, the staff, the patients, every part of my life. I don't want it to disappear. Fuck it.
Positive. お前は
You put your head in the sand to maintain the status quo, and now it's made everything worse. You get that, right? Right, now I'm more filled than I have ever been in spite of all this shit. I'm happy.
俺にとってはな。
But I owe that happiness to a debt I incurred in my past. So you can also work with Sakaki, and he probably will erase the debt, let's be real. Push him away. Admonish him.
ポジティブ。そうだろ。
If you want to protect what you have, then you don't you think you need to do something?
ああ。
This one's actually going to be hard. That's the answer. Is this the answer you've chosen? From Murata. Don't you dare run. You're just a coward.
ああ。よく聞け。
You're just a coward. Okay, we're getting there.
そうか。
Is this the answer you've chosen?
俺は。
なあ。
So what it is you actually want?
Negative. それは
If you can't figure out the answer to that question, then none of this can change. Hey. There we go, we're getting better. Sometimes a little tough love is needed. Wait. I'm gonna go to another page because I'm getting confused. You can't see the big picture. At this rate, you're as good as dead.
ああ。いいんだな。
At this rate, you're as good as dead. Maybe I should stop. I lost interest and fell silent. Oh, I got an ending. Did I?
お前はどうしたい？
俺は。
Oh, I've got to restart. Okay, let's try this. I'm gonna save here just in case. I didn't push him enough. Okay.
本当か？
そうか。
Put that one down here. Okay, so that leads to that.
Yoshi.
Think about it. Are you sure this is what you want?
とは
Ah, damn it. Alright, let's start from the beginning. Alright, so I didn't do that one. So that's what happens, I guess, when you don't do them right. Okay. So let's try a couple of different choices. At least now with the new computer, I can do a bit longer videos.
俺は
I do like that pendant a lot. Purposely provoking. Let's
Negative.
try that. We didn't try that first time.
へえ
And this is going to lead to that? Okay, that's working better.
俺にとって
ネガティブ。考えろ。
So you're not going to fight? Oh. Okay, this is different. Hmm.
うん。
俺は
なあ。 ポジティブ。おい。
Grow a pair already. There we go. There we fucking go. We almost got this shit. Okay, let's see. At this rate, you're as good as dead. You can't see the bigger picture.
ああ。本当か
Got it. I think we finally have it.
Ah.
とは
Damn it. This one's actually a bit of a bitch. There we go, there we go. Okay. So we just had to stop pushing him at that point. Ask him again.
過保護。やっぱり俺に対して過保護だな。
今でもお前を守りたいと思ってる。
Okay, I got some of it out. Ah!
母の身代わり。母親のことはどうなんだ。
それは。
There's gotta be more to it.
タクが求めているのは。
So what he wants. We got a little bit of it. What Taku wants. He wants to be a doctor.
「ずっと見てきた。俺のことをずっと見てたのか。
ああ、そうだ。
I think I got it wrong. Okay, we get
タ
enough.
クが悩んでいるのは。
So this one's continue the conversation to reveal the target's secrets. Yeah, so it's slow. It's when you gotta be careful and slow. Oh.
負債。負債は
I think I fucked it up. No?
タクが求めているのは
Okay, we're almost there. Alright, we're almost there.
Benkyou. 勉強はどうなった？
それはもう言わなくても分かってるだろう。
Okay, good. Good, good, good. We're almost there. I save. Sorry. Between doing this, I'm also, getting a mattress, because mine got damaged. So it's fun. Feel free to donate for new mattress.
タクが悩ん
No,
でいるの
don't
は
do that, guys. I'm joking. I think by the time this is out, I'll probably have it and have a good night's sleep.
黒い噂。黒い噂のことは
全てがデマってわけじゃなかったな。
Oh, good. I think we hit it. Ah! Damn it. Is this one of those where you only have a
タク
certain
が
amount?
悩んでいるのは
Got it.
薬物。
Why didn't I think of that? Oh, I'm an idiot. That's how you can tell when you got it right or not.
薬物の開発はもうお前の中で答えは出てるよな。
それでも俺は
まだ迷ってるのか。
わからないんだ。
聞かせろ。
Let's see. You said you'd become a doctor so you could help people like your mom, right?
もちろんそうだ。
We're gonna crack this today, guys. Thank you all for who are still watching. I know this isn't normally your guys' cup of tea, but hopefully you're into the story like I am. Let's see. Let's try pressing it.
ネガティブ。けど
Okay, I think we got this. God, this one really pushes you, but I think this is also the last one, that's why. You've given up. Yeah, I think this is the end. Like, this is the last one you have to do. Don't you dare run.
よし。タク、
So so why not drop everything and run away?
俺は
Can't.
いいのか。
Wait, are we doing this again? No, this is different, I think. Yeah, this is different. It just seems the same on the spaz.
ポジティブ。やめたらどうだ。
There's still time. I think we're doing good. I think this time we have to build him back up. We cracked him first. Now we have to kind of build him back up.
ああ。なら。
Oh. Say nothing. If you honestly can't decide, then go ahead and make the drug.
お前が望むなら。
Tell yourself it's Tono's fault, not yours.
だがそれじゃ
Provoke him outright.
ネガティブ。
He forced you into it, so you're not to blame. Tell yourself it's all his fault. Okay, got a little bit more going. Kind of brought him back there. If we break him, he's just gonna shut down. Not like you're gonna tell people you were the one who made it, right? Not like you're gonna spill the beans and tell people you were the one who made it, right? Whoop! Boo-hoo, we almost made a very bad mistake. You claim you're on the fence, but I don't see it that way. Sorry about the barking.
どうしたいんだ？
You claim you're on the fence, but I don't see it that way.
どう？
だから、
You owe a debt to Tono, that's why you're torn, right? You owe him, but... So he's kind of starting to see that even if he owes a debt, it doesn't matter. Drop some sarcasm in there. Make him admit it.
ネガティブ。なるほど。
Then I guess you better pay him back. Think that was a bad idea.
Positive. わかってる。
Without him, you wouldn't be here right now. Yeah. Okay, that's better. We don't want to get a game over. If you can't think for yourself, then what good are you?
そうか。
If you can't think for yourself, then what good are you?
要は、
You resign yourself to this right from day one. You've already decided you can't change anything.
違う。
Oh, there we go. He's starting to get indignant. That's right, big boy. You can do this.
ポジティブ。できる。
But your actions, those matter. I think we should have not done it. Pretend this is a life or death situation.
不安か？
Pretend this is a life or death situation. That ought to clear things up.
どう？
It kind of is. Ah! God, bloody darn it. That one seemed like it was actually working.
タクが求めているのは、
There we go. How can I fluster Tono even more?
黒い噂。黒い噂の
全てがデマってわけじゃなかったな。
タクが悩んでいるのは、
See.
負債。
We already used that.
ずっと見てきた。
ああ。
Damn it. 2 hours later. Come on, we can do this. I don't think this will do. Oh, there we go.
母親の身代わり。
Oh, it was goldfish.
俺は母親の身代わりなんだろう。お前が本当に好きなのは俺の母親で、ずっと俺を身代わりにしてたんだろう。
違う。
恐れてるのか、失うこと。
俺は
決められないのか。
Got it. Just then, there was a knock at the door, and we'll find out who that is next time. Thank you guys so much for being with me for this long episode. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed it. Let me see. Actually, we might continue. Actually, let's continue. Taku hopped off the bed and answered it. A man in a business suit walked in. Oh, it's you. It was the same burly guy who beat the shit out of me in the woman's room.
兄貴がそいつを呼んどる。手当ては済んだが。
He smirked at me as I sat on the bed.
ずいぶん男前になったじゃねえか。その腫れ上がった顔で兄貴にたっぷり可愛がってもらえよ。
Taku glared at the other man.
早く来い。
I slowly eased myself onto my feet, then headed to the door. As I passed Taku, standing there in silence, our eyes met. We looked at each other for a long moment until he averted his gaze. Then I left the room without looking back.
失礼します。
入れ。
At Tono's command, his lackey opened the door with a keycard and led me inside. Tono was lounging on his leather sofa, sipping a glass full of amber liquid. With a bow, the subordinate left the room. As I stood there blankly, Tono looked at me and chuckled.
おいおい、ずいぶんひどくやられたな。母親にの顔が台無しだ。
あんたの部下に言えよ。
うちのは気性が荒いやつが多くてな。来い。
He beckoned to me with a single finger, big fan of condescending gestures apparently. Regardless, I obeyed. He sat his glass down on the coffee table, grabbed on my arm, and yanked me towards him. It knocked me off balance, and I collapsed on top of him. His icy gaze was now mere inches from my face. He stared at me in silence for a long moment, then he sighed and shoved me away in annoyance.
試してみようかと思ったんだが、その顔じゃ興ざめだ。
Give what a try, gay sex, I sneered at him.
また女装でもするか。
だとしてもその怪我じゃな。
With an exaggerated shrug, he rose to his feet and walked to the counter.
座ってろ。
Per his instructions, I sat on the sofa and looked around the room. The furnishings were all in matching black, and the lighting was dim, reminiscent of a host club. Tono grabbed the clean glass from the shelf, poured some whiskey, and walked back.
飲めよ。
I took a glass, but didn't feel like drinking, so I shifted it around in my hand. He returned to the sofa and picked up his own half-empty glass.
おとなしい玉じゃないとは思ってたが、暴れ馬だな。さすが、組にいただけある。お前、見張りに色目を使ったんだって？
引っかかる方が悪い。
Tono chuckled.
そりゃそうだ。あいつには焼きを入れておいた。もちろん、見張り役も他のやつに交代だ。
He downed the rest of his whiskey, then fixed me with a probing look.
お前、自分の武器が何なのかよくわかってるよな。目的のためなら手段は選ばないタイプか？
あんたほどじゃない。
言うね。俺とお前は似てるとまでは言わないが、近いものを感じるな。
With a snort, he set his empty glass on the coffee table and leaned back against the sofa.
村瀬が負債者だってことは知ってるのか？
本人から聞いた。
そうか。じゃああいつが俺から逃げられないってことも知ってるんだな。
ああ。
Tono stared wistfully into the distance, his eyes narrowed.
村瀬はな、もともと金持ちのお坊ちゃんで、俺と同じ高校に通ってたんだ。
Oh, you don't like him.
だが両親が離婚して母親だけになって、一気に貧乏になってな。ただ、あいつはすこぶる頭が良かった。成績も常にトップクラスで医者を目指してた。俺はあいつと知り合う前から、おそらく本当に医者になるだろうと踏んでた。だから話しかけて縁を作ったんだ。医者の知り合いってのは重要だからな。重宝する。あいつが何か悩んでたらすぐに相談に乗ってやったりな。未来の先行投資ってやつだ。薬の研究職を進めたら見事にそっちに進んだよ。結果として医者になったが、むしろ好都合だった。
He paused and looked at me with a meaningful grin.
あいつはともかく、お前からすればとんだとばっちりだよな。巻き込まれた挙句、こんなところまで連れてこられて。迷惑だろ？
言いたいことがあるならはっきり言えよ。
My reply was cold. His theatrical tone of voice pissed me off. He straightened his posture and shot me a look that suggested he'd just thought of a fun idea.
取引しないか？
取引？
ああ。応じるなら、ここでのお前の待遇を良くしてやる。
解放されるわけじゃないのか？
さすがにそれはできない相談だ。
He shook his head.
条件を言え。
俺の愛人になれ。
I don't like guys that are dicks. This I was not expecting. I stared at him in silence. He was smiling thinly, but didn't seem to be joking.
本気で言ってるのか？
ああ。
He reached out and grabbed me by the jaw. His eyes narrowed behind the lenses of his glasses.
お前は母親譲りの整った顔立ちをしてる。なのに顔も体もズタボロだ。ひどく醜い。そういうのはな、見てる方に背徳的な興奮をもたらす場合もある。大抵の人間は傷跡だらけのお前を見て目をそらすだろうが、中にはそうじゃない人間もいる。無意識にお前の傷跡を魅力だと感じるやつもいるってことだ。さらに言えば、綺麗なものを汚したい欲望を隠し持ってるやつも案外多い。
I am very pretty.
そういう連中がお前を見たら欲望をかきたてられるはずだ。すでに傷跡まみれなんだから、もっとひどく扱ってもいいだろうとな。お前のそのアンバランスな体は刺激心をそそるんだよ。
His fingers traveled from my chin to my cheek, then followed the scar running across the bridge of my nose.
俺はお前が嫌いだ。醜いからな。だが手元には置いておきたくなる。不思議なことに。
He spoke matter-of-factly with a smile.
どうだ
？As we held eye contact, I made a show of contemplation, but deep down I had already decided.
わかった。
He squinted at me dubiously.
ずいぶんあっさりと決めたな。
Did you want a challenge?
もっと悩んだ方が良かったか？
村瀬はいいのか？
タク、何が？
お前を守ろうと必死になってるだろう？
関係ない。
そうか。このことを知ったら苦しむぞ。
あいつを苦しめるために俺を連れてきたんじゃないのか？
確かに。それなら本当に決まりだ。まるで汚い野良猫でも拾った気分だがな。
He let out a 30 chuckle, grabbed his empty glass, and stood up. Then he walked to the counter. The counter, he poured himself another glass of whiskey and downed it, then fixed me with me a defiant look.
交渉成立だ。
Bitch. So that is where we're going to leave it. So thank you guys so much for joining me for more slow damage, and I will see you guys next time. I think we're getting toward the end of the game, or at least to a lot more interesting part. See you guys next time. Have a fantastic day. Don't forget to check out my shop and my other channel, Sinfully Pure. Bye, everybody.